Today's episode is a heavier one, and we want to acknowledge upfront this episode contains mature and sensitive topics. Our guest of honor, Lauren Graham, bravely opens up about years of abuse, trauma, and addiction. Lauren's story is raw, honest, and will leave you shocked. Her journey recently led her to writing a book she just released titled No Victory, No Crown. She shares the hope on how God can meet you in the middle of whatever you may be walking through. Let's get started. Lauren, welcome to No Gray Areas. We are so glad that you're here. You have an amazing story, a story with a lot of twists and turns. And so without going into it too much, I'm going to let you tell it. Yeah. Let's have you start by taking us back, way back to your childhood, and then we'll kind of walk through it. But audience, I guarantee you that you are going to be impacted by this story. I guarantee you that God is going to use this story to remind us of his grace and freedom that he wants us all to have. So let's back up. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your childhood and how that leads you into the story that you're going to tell.
Yeah, so I am the youngest of three children, and my mom and my real father were together for a short time, and he left, and we moved to Arizona when I was quite young, maybe 2.
Do you even remember him?
I don't.
Okay. Yeah.
I've seen pictures, of course, and I do remember some phone calls afterwards, but they caused a lot of issues and sadness, and so it was something that was stopped pretty quickly when we were young. And then my mom, so my sister, who's the oldest of us, she was born with rheumatoid arthritis in every joint in her entire body. Oh. So excruciatingly painful. At the time we lived in Chicago. So the doctors had said, if you want your daughter to have any type of a real life, you're going to have to move to a warmer climate. She's going to be miserable here. And so my mother just happened to have an aunt that lived in Tucson. So we all moved to Tucson. My mom now
That's single. A big change from Chicago to Tucson.
Yeah, huge. But my mom now being a single mom of 3 children and one who's disabled, to make life better for everybody. So we just kind of made our way there, and my mom ended up meeting a gentleman who she dated for a while, and then he sexually abused me, and has continued to. Pretty much my whole life, actually. My mother's still married to him.
Really?
Yeah. And I did tell my mom about what had happened. And
can I ask, how old were you when you told your
7.
mom?
I was 7.
So you're 7 years old, and you go to your mom and tell your mom that your stepdad is abusing you.
So what's really crazy? Thinking back, I'm 7 years old, and so I have all these memories of stuff that had happened, and I was in a weird situation with my siblings, and something had happened that was causing these things to come up. And so I had actually told my siblings first.
Wow.
And they were just super confused, for one, right?
They
didn't know what to do with it. And we're just like, what do you mean? Like, we don't get this. Like, what's happening here? And so oddly enough, my stepfather was the one who came home first. And so he saw us all kind of, I'm crying, of course, because I'm freaking out. Mm-hmm. And my siblings are totally confused. And he's asking for the story of what is happening here. And my brother, who's my best friend, right? I'm 7, he's 8. And my protector. And he just blurts out, you're hurting her.
Oh, wow.
And he's mad and confused. And so he takes me into another room. And I had to confront him at that time at 7, saying, you're hurting me. And I know you're hurting me.
7 years old.
7
you're
years
confronting
old.
your stepdad about abusing you.
Yeah. One night was worse than other things. And I woke up the next morning, and I couldn't go to the bathroom. And I couldn't go to the bathroom for 2 days because it hurt so bad. And I had told him, I just want you to stop hurting me. And he grabbed me by my arms, my little arms, and kneeled down. And he just said, I would never hurt you. I love you. I would never do anything to you to hurt you. And I'm thinking I'm cuckoo crazy because
Yeah, you're just
I know
confused
it's,
then, right? That's probably
yeah,
just confusing to it as a
yeah.
kid.
And I mean, listen, I know pain. I know what that
Mhm,
feels like.
mhm,
And so it was very confusing.
mhm.
But we just kind of left it at that. You know, it was like, I would never do that to you. That would,
Mhm.
never happen. And I just was like, okay,
Yeah.
kind of left the room. And later that evening, my mom had come home, and then my mom and dad went into the room, and
And this was the same day that you
same
told your
day,
siblings
the same
and that he
day.
tells you, "I would never hurt you,"
Yeah.
and then she comes home same day, okay.
Yeah. So they go to the room and have a discussion, and nothing comes of it from me. She doesn't come to me and say, "What
Mhm,
happened? Are
mhm.
you okay?" Which again was confusing, right? This is my mom.
Yeah.
And shortly after, like within days, we ended up moving out of the house that we were in, and my siblings and I and my mother moved into this little cheap apartment motel thing, and my stepfather left.
Mm.
And there was a piece of me, that was slightly relieved because I was scared of him,
Yeah, yeah,
and I didn't know what kind of wrath I would have to deal with
yeah.
after that. And so we went to this little motel place and we stayed there. And I remember trying to comfort my mom, and my sister was with her. And so she was crying, and so
Mhm.
I went out there and I tried to hug my mom, and she just pushed me away from her. And she said, "Look what you've done."
So she was blaming this on you.
Yeah.
Wow.
And at
And you're
7 years,
7.
7 years old, I went into the bathroom and I fell asleep on the floor crying
Mhm.
because I didn't know what I had done wrong. I was so confused.
Yeah.
And so we stayed there for a while, and then we ended up moving into another home, and he came back.
How long
It
was
was
that?
like
Like,
within months, like
wow.
maybe 2 months. And again, I was so confused. I was like, what, why is this happening? Why is he back?
Mhm.
And of course, at that age, you don't go to your parents, you don't go to your mom and go, "What are you doing?
Yeah,
Why is he
yeah,
here?" You just kind of go along with it,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so everyone went along with it. And he continued with, just little things, always like grabbing me around my waist and kissing me with like open mouth, kind of stuff. And it just never, little comments about my clothing or my body or things that just as a stepfather were really inappropriate.
Mhm.
They were
Mhm.
inappropriate, And so everybody just kind of assumed their roles, and we went back to life, and it was talked about. It wasn't brought up. It was as if it never happened. I was just supposed to go along and just deal with.
Lauren, it's just a sad thing, and you hear this so often with toxic homes or homes where there's abuse. Abnormal becomes normal and normal becomes abnormal, right?
Absolutely.
So for you all in that home, like you said, you described it as we all kind of went just kind of played our roles,
Yeah.
but they were very abnormal. They're not healthy roles. But for you as a 7, 8, 9-year old, that's all you know, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're just like, I guess this is the way it is.
Yeah.
But deep in your soul, you know it's not right.
Of course, and I felt such, I felt this just such lack um of love
Yeah.
and acceptance,
Yeah.
and kind of always felt like I was like the outsider,
Yeah.
kind of thing, and that I was like the problem child.
Mhm.
I caused the problems, and that
Mhm.
was a horrible feeling, to not have anybody to just to go to talk to,
Mhm.
even in the silliest moments or the exciting moments, or you know that mother to go to just say, "Mama had a really bad day today."
Mhm.
I didn't have any of that.
Well, that's had to be so difficult as a kid because I think the way God set it up is that your family structure, I mean,
Mhm.
that's supposed to be the safe place, right? Like of
Yeah.
all the people on this planet, it's mom and dad they're supposed to protect,
Yeah.
and you're growing up in an environment where they're not protecting you. In fact, you're confused because you're getting in trouble when you actually share how you're being abused,
Yeah.
and it's blamed on you and why he left. I
Mhm.
mean, I suspect that way into your adulthood, that had to be confusing to you.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And still, I
Yeah.
mean, after this and years go by, and you figure out that when the man is the head of the household, right? And he sets the tone and he sets the rules.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they're your abuser, you still tend to desire to be loved by them. And so growing up, because I couldn't get that love and the affection and attention at home from the people that were supposed to love me, I ended up seeking out love in all of the wrong places, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I ended up looking to men and to boys to fill that need.
And probably not healthy ones, right?
Not healthy.
Yes.
To this day, not healthy.
Yeah.
At 50 years old, which is what I think God is trying to do, is really transform the way that I see myself and the way that He sees me.
Yeah.
And so I ended up, losing my virginity very young. I ended up being actually raped at a high school party and pregnant by the rape.
Oh, man, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Was you a teenager then?
Yeah.
15 somewhere? Yeah.
16 years old.
16 years old.
Yeah. And of course, I say of course, in my mind I say of course, but I think if I had parents or someone to go to say, hey, this happened, I'm hurting or I'm broken or I'm pregnant, I could have had some comfort, but I didn't feel like I could go to them at all.
Well, for sure. You went to them at 7 years old.
Yeah. And that's the response. And so I felt this tug at okay, you can't tell them what would possibly happen if you told them. And of course it was going to be my fault.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I had to deal with that on my own, finding out, for one, I'm pregnant by somebody I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know this person. I definitely am not in any position to have a child at 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So I had confided in a friend of mine and her mother, who to this day, I'm so grateful for, because she became a mom to me when I needed one.
Wow.
And she just loved me and she just accepted me. And she just told me, no matter what you decide, we're going to be here for you. We're going to love you through it. And it's going to be hard no matter what it is that you decide.
Yeah. So
I did decide to not have the child. I had an abortion. And, at the time, of course, it was the option for me, in the moment for me. Of course, looking back now, I deeply regret doing that. I deeply regret the sacrifice and just, I wish that I could have seen how valuable I was in God's eyes then. And I would have seen the value in my own child.
Yeah.
And I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there at this point in your life, was there any spiritual?
No.
Nothing. So you weren't going to church. You weren't going, okay.
No.
So God wasn't in your life where you not even praying, wondering who, okay.
None of it.
Yeah.
We did, we were Creasters. We went to church on Christmas and Easter.
Yeah.
It wasn't until the next year after that I actually had met and made some friends and ended up going to Young Life, where it was my first introduction to Jesus and who He was and how He loved. And I went to camp, and that's when I officially had, and at the time I still look back and I didn't know what it meant to give my life to Jesus when I was that age. I didn't have a concept of the feeling, but I knew that what these people had, the way that they acted, the way that they loved, the way that they accepted people, I wanted that. I wanted to feel that kind of love.
So can I dig into that for a moment? What was it that you saw? I mean, you explained a little bit of it, but maybe dig into a little bit more, because you were 17. You said it was about a year later then?
Yeah. I was still 16 at the time, but it was, within the next year after all of the stuff. Yeah.
So you've got this very, very broken home that you're from and still living in. You've just endured, you've been raped, you've gone through an abortion, just some very lonely, difficult things that you're going through.
Yeah.
And then you hear about this Jesus, and you see these people, and there's something that caught your attention. What was it?
It's this way that they carry themselves. It was like this light. These people, the children that invited me to Bible study, they were always happy, and they were the good kids at school. They were kind. They weren't gossips. They weren't mean or hurtful or hateful. It was like they always traveled in these groups, in these packs and you always knew who they were. They always just had this way about them. I just wanted to feel that. I wanted to feel how they felt.
Isn't that interesting, Lauren, though, when you're describing that, I think, because I was a teacher and a coach in my 20s, and the people that you're describing, a lot of times when I would sit down with them alone, and they were living good lives, they were living for Jesus, but sometimes alone they would be like, man, I feel like I'm missing out on the fun. But you were living that other, you saw that other side, and you're going, no, you have the freedom.
Yes.
Like you have the freedom that people want. Absolutely. But sometimes those kids that are living that are thinking like, I'm missing out on doing whatever I want and living this free. Yeah. So you noticed something, maybe you wouldn't at 16 or 17 be able to put in these words, but you noticed they had a freedom, a peace, a joy that you wanted.
Yeah. And a desire to, again, I was living that life of what I was thinking, doing whatever I wanted, going to parties, sleeping with boys. Those weren't choices that, they weren't making choices like that.
Yeah.
They were making good choices. They were doing good things. They weren't ditching school. They were getting good grades. Yeah. They had a family unit that they went home to every day that provided them with something that I did not have.
So did you start seeing their family units? Again, where I said before, the problem when you grow up in a toxic or an unhealthy home, it's abnormal, but it's normal to you.
Yeah.
So did you start at that age, you started noticing a difference in homes and you're like, okay, their moms and dads treat them differently than mine is. Mm-hmm. You were noticing that?
Yeah. And siblings, the siblings that they had. I mean, we were close too, but we were close in a survival way, right? We were just like maintaining life every day, like just to survive, just to not get either yelled at, poked at, pushed around, called something. We were just living in those moments of just like surviving, as where some of my friends, they were living in houses where they were thriving.
When you say that, it brings up with me, and this always has, like there's nothing that makes me more angry than people that hurt children. And so when you talk about like living in a home where you're in survival mode, I mean, there's a mixture, for me, it's a mixture of emotions of like deep sadness and rage. Those two things come out in me both at the same time, because I'm going, a child is supposed to feel safe and secure and peace. And they're in this broken world that we have now because sin entered the world at the beginning of the story, right?
Yeah.
But home is one place where they're supposed to be protected from that. But then when you grow up in a home, and so many people do now, you grow up in a home where you're not experiencing that at all.
Yeah.
In fact, you almost feel safer when you leave the home than when you go home to home. And that's what you were experiencing.
Yeah.
It makes me so angry and so sad at the same time.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. You end up kind of isolating, even though you have siblings that are there. We all kind of isolated, where my brother would spend time in his room alone. I would be in my room alone. My sister would be in her room alone. We just, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's just a sense of like where we would find peace was just being by ourselves.
Yeah. But Lauren, you put it so well but it's because you guys you're trying to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of thriving, you're surviving.
Yep.
So what happens? And you're 16 years old. You've had some really difficult things happen. And then you go to camp. Like you said, you don't know really the depths of what you're doing, but you just know like, I want this Jesus.
Yes.
I want what these people have. And so you become a Jesus follower at that time?
Yeah. So I officially, in a field of yellow poppy flowers or something, I sat by myself and I talked out loud, to this God that I didn't know yet, but just said, I don't know what it is that you are giving them, but whatever that is, I want some too. So if that means that I'm going to give my life to you, I'm going to give my life to you.
Lauren, that just brings like tears to my eyes. You'd see him. I picture you. I picture this 16-year-old sitting out there who's been wounded so deeply and starts talking to a God that loves her so deeply, more than you even know now.
Yeah.
You said you're 50. More than you even recognize now, loved you so much, and it's the first time that you reach out to him. Mm-hmm. Wow. So that starts you on a journey.
It does.
Hey, we hope you've enjoyed this episode so far. Be sure to like and subscribe to not miss a future podcast. Okay, let's get back to the episode.
And for the next while, I'm sure everybody, knows when you first make this decision, whether it's willy-nilly or really wholeheartedly, which is what God really wants. you're on kind of a spiritual high,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And I felt like that.
You had that for a little while.
I did.
Yeah.
I felt that for a little while. I was on that spiritual high after, camp and going back and being around these people and these friends. And, then like real life again starts to set in.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have to live in it, there's nowhere else to go. Mm-hmm. And then some crazy things started happening at school and changes in high schools. And again, I veered off that nice, safe path that I thought that I was on, and graduated high school. And I ended up dating the same guy that I dated when I was very young. I was only 15, who I lost my virginity to. Years later, we reconnected, and I ended up dating him again. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, he was an alcoholic. And that was my first real experience with somebody who had addiction. And I didn't even recognize and realize that it was addiction at the time, because I was 19 years old, and I really didn't experience that type of thing before.
I think people that are in the party scene at that age, they don't, right? Because you're just thinking like, oh, we're just
partying
having
fun,
drinking and having fun.
Yeah, we're just having a good time.
Recognizing that there's maybe, for some of them,
Yes.
This has crossed the line into an addiction.
Yeah. So I kind of caught on to that whole thing. And so I, decided that being with him was probably not, the best idea. But because I wasn't getting, again, the attention, affection, or love from someone, I started getting it from everyone and anyone. So I started stripping. And for a few years, I just kind of went off the rails. It was a new environment. It was new people. It was new experiences. It was a lot of money that I never seen before. I was doing things. I was doing drugs. I was going places with people that I probably never should have been around. And then I actually ended up getting back together with the guy. And within a very short time, I ended up pregnant again. And I was with him. And at the time, I just accredited it to, this must be what God wants. I'm at least with this guy now. I'm pregnant and I'm with this person. This should be the time I should have this baby.
Was it because you came from such an unstable, toxic situation, just having a little bit of stability? Is that what your mind is doing at that time, where you're like going, well, this has got to be a good thing. It's more stable than what I've had.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, I know I was really young at the first turn, but I thought, well, I'm 21 now. The guilt and the shame that I had been carrying along with me from the first abortion, I didn't really know if I could really go through that again. And not to mention the excruciating pain, not mentally, but physically. It was a horrific experience. And so I just thought, I don't think I can do that again to myself.
Yeah.
And so at that moment, I did decide, I'm going to go ahead and have this child. And we did stay together. But again, being an alcoholic, those things don't just go away. And the addiction didn't go away, and the anger didn't go away. And I figured out shortly after, within a few months, I did not want to raise my child in this environment. Again, toxic and scary. And I just, because of what I had come from, I just decided, this is going to be really hard for me to leave, but it's going to be the best thing for my child. I did not want any child to feel unloved or in a situation where, they didn't feel protected. Yeah. And so I did decide to leave.
Yeah.
My son was 8 months old at the time, and I was already stripping again. So financially, I was.
Was that really the decision with that? Did you keep going back to stripping just because of the amount of money you could make compared to a typical job?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And at that point, now that, I have a child, and I'm thinking, how am I going to raise this child with no education? I didn't finish college. I didn't have a lot of skills, but I did make a lot of money. And I figured, well, this is the way I'm going to be able to raise him. I'm going to be okay. So I left, and I continued to do that for many years. And then I started being pimped out by the VIP hostesses at the club that I was in. And so I started prostituting.
I don't think, just to jump in your story here for our audience, our audience heard me say this before, but years ago I used to work with anti-human trafficking, and we helped build one of the first safe houses in the United States for underage girls.
Awesome.
I don't think our audience may realize how often people end up getting pimped. Like they just think like, oh, those strip clubs and everything, you know, the women are making that choice and they're doing, but they don't realize how much human trafficking actually starts or is taking place out of those environments.
Yeah. And it's just a segue, you know what I mean? It really is. And I hate to say it, but I mean, when you're stripping and you're already compromising yourself to a level in your mind, you really do figure
it's just another step.
It's just one step further.
Yeah.
And it's way more money.
Yeah.
And so you just continue to compromise yourself.
Did you recognize, like you just used the word, that he was pimping you out at the time? Did you recognize that? Or would
No.
you? Yeah, I was going to say, I bet you didn't.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
And actually, it was actually two females. They were the hostesses there in the club that I was working at. And I didn't recognize at the time that that's what it was until it was happening so frequently. You know, it was the first one, you know, you're just kind of like, okay, wait, what's happening right now? And then you do it, you know, and then a little bit of time goes by and then there's another, right? But then it becomes more and more and you're like, wow, like this is a lot, you know? And again, you're the one who has to lay your head down on your pillow at night and you have to wake up with yourself every day. And that starts to catch up to you after a while. And, you know, even doing stripping, I wasn't, you know, I know people have this idea of what strippers are like, you know, that we are these kind of money hungry, porn kind of women who just live this crazy on the edge lifestyle all the time. And it's not always true. You know, a lot of the women that I worked with for so many years were mothers, were
trying to survive,
or were married who had families or were college students just trying to make ends meet, or, you know, you would be surprised at how many of those things are not true about women in the industry, or that we're all drug addicts, that we have to do drugs to go to work, or we have to be drunk to get on stage, or those things. There's a lot of women who don't do drugs or drink at all. And I did my fair share of both of those things. However, I didn't do them while I was working. I needed to be in control. I wanted to be in control. Truly, I mean, I couldn't walk on 60-inch heels being messed up. I mean, I had to be very careful about what I was doing. So I didn't do those things while I was at work. It was after, after working that we got into the trouble.
So what was happening with you? So at 16 or 17, you gave your life to Jesus. At this point, is this something you're struggling with, you're wrestling with, or is it just like, that was in the past, that was a decision, I've moved on?
Oh, I was so lost.
Okay.
I was just lost. I mean, truly,
were you still praying or talking to God at all during this time, or not?
You know, I'm sure I had those moments, you know, where I was in the middle of something.
Yeah. We usually pray when we hit rock bottom.
Of course.
Or we think it's rock bottom.
Of course. When
I say we think it's rock bottom because there's always another level down.
Of course there is.
Yeah.
You think you're in a sticky situation, right? And that's the time where we usually call out his name. And yes, I have definitely had those moments. And I'm guaranteeing you that that's the only reason I got out of those moments was because I spoke his name, because I asked him to intervene, you know, and the only reason why I'm here.
Yeah. And that again goes back to, we have a Father in heaven, a God, our creator, that loves us so much that, as humans, we would feel like, the only time you call me is when you're in trouble.
Absolutely.
And we'd get upset about that. But we have a God that loves us so much where he's like, if that's the only time you call me, I'm okay with that still. I'd rather have you calling out to me all the time, you know, where you're at in life now. But at that part in your life, at that time in your life, if it was once every 6 months when you're at what you think might be rock bottom this time, and you call out, he was there with open arms, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Every time.
So keep going with this story then. So you're in your early 20s now. You're a mother. You got involved in this relationship with this guy that's an alcoholic, but you leave. You take your son and you leave. You're still stripping. Now you're being pimped out.
Dating, of course, dating some of the men that I'm with or not. Trying to find a normalcy in a relationship is really hard to do. When you're doing what you do, right? And men will tell you that. I mean, there are men who want to be with a woman like that, and there are lots who don't. And so I didn't want to be with a man that was in the environment doing those things. I wanted to be with somebody who, again, was going to love me and care for me and protect me and nurture me. But finding one that's willing to do that when you're doing the things that you do is very hard to find.
Yeah.
So I continually would find the same type of guy who would end up, either just using me, abusing me physically, sexually, emotionally, financially, all of that. And until I just would get tired of it and would, try another one.
Yeah.
And then
I think in that world too, Lauren, one of the things that I discovered in that world doing so many interviews back years ago when I was working in anti-human trafficking, there's something almost demonic about pimps and Johns and most often men in this case that can spot a woman who can be victimized.
Absolutely.
Like they can go into a gas station, they're filling up their car with gas and they see a woman get out of the car and I don't know how they do, but somehow they can go, this is a potential victim.
Yes.
I don't know what it is. That's why I say it's almost demonic.
It is.
But they're just drawn to that, right? So
Yeah.
you were in a place in your life at this point where you're not healthy enough not to be victimized, but these are the men that are being attracted to you, right? Like they're coming because they somehow can sense that this is a victim.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're consciously thinking of it that way.
No, I don't think they are either. But there's some toxic trait that they carry.
Yeah.
And there is some empathic trait that the women carry, right? So then we are too attracted back to that toxicity and chaos that they bring.
But you don't. But at the same time, you're attracted to it, but you don't want that. That's not where you're going to find a supportive, caring, compassionate, self-sacrificing man that you really deeply want. Sure.
But they all come clothed in something totally different than that when they initially enter. They come in this nice little package with a bow on top that promises that they're going to be the one that take care of you. They're going to be the one that takes you out of that environment. They're going to be the one. And they are not.
Yeah.
They typically are not.
Yeah.
So you fall for it, over and over and over until you just get to the point where you are so broken that you truly, as a human being, I can tell you, I had nothing more to offer anyone.
Yeah.
Physically and emotionally.
When you were at that point, how old are you now at this point when you're saying like I had nothing?
Probably late 30s.
Okay.
Yeah, late 30s by then.
So this was almost 2 decades of living this lifestyle?
Yeah, 15 years is when I went back and I actually did really think about this. At the age I started and when I did stop officially. And in the interim, in the later years of it, I was trying to find other jobs. I was actually put myself through school 3 different occasions, trying to be an esthetician, a nail technician, a phlebotomist. So I put myself through school a few times trying to get myself out because I had gotten to that point where emotionally and mentally I was broken to my core and I didn't want to do this anymore. I would find myself at the parking lot of this strip club like just gripping the steering wheel with anticipation of getting out of the car because I didn't want to do this one more night.
Yeah.
And I would ask myself, like, what else can I do? What else can you do tonight to make the money that you need to make to pay the bills? There was no answer there. I didn't have a backup plan.
Yeah.
And so I started creating backup plans for myself. So working at night, going to school during the day.
Wow.
And putting my son in daycare or time now he's in school, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to, make something happen for myself.
Yeah.
And so I finally, now I'm working during the day, working at night. My son was going to visit his dad. We had ended up with joint custody. So he was spending time with his dad, spending time with me. When he was with his dad, I was working.
Yeah.
I was at the club. I was trying to make as much money as I could, so that the day job, wasn't making much money. Right. And of course now it wasn't making enough money, anywhere close to enough money for me to supply the lifestyle that I had now created for myself.
And do you have at this point in your life, do you have any kind of healthy support system?
No.
So obviously family, are you even talking to family at this point?
Yeah. So that all remained, again, this like toxic, entity in my life. And again, very sad to say out loud, everyone in my family knew what I was doing. They all knew what I was doing. And not one of them came and said, we don't want you to do this.
Yeah.
Like, we need you to stop doing this. We love you so much. This is killing us, knowing that you're doing this to support your child. They all knew.
Yeah.
Everybody knew. Even my brother came to work at one of the clubs as a barback.
Wow.
And yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And again, though, we're going back to like everyone in the family, that my other siblings, they're just in survival mode still. They're in their own lives, doing their own thing, just trying to make it, just trying to survive, just trying to pay the bills, right? We're all separate now and grown, but we all still are doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we still have the same parents who are toxic and pretending still like nothing happened. Like we're all just this, Brady Bunch, kind of family.
Yep.
And nobody's still saying anything. Nobody's opening their mouth about anything.
And when we come out of homes like that, so often, sadly, we become what we hate.
Yeah.
Right? Like the kid that grows up in an alcoholic home says, I'm never going to do that.
Yeah.
But too often they do.
Yeah.
Or they come up in an abusive home and they say, I'll never treat my kid like that. But too often they do. We become what we hate.
Yes.
Which again, I know is part of your redemption story.
Yeah.
That we have a God who wants to rescue us from that kind of thing so we don't have to do that. But
yes.
So you're 15 years you're into this.
15 years deep. Yeah, I'm in. And let me say, I paint this picture, which it really is horrible. And it sucked,
Mm-hmm.
but I was the best mother to my child every day that I got to wake up with him, and every day that I got to see his face. I would make it a point every day that I would be the best mom to this beautiful human being that God gave me as long as I possibly could. And I never missed a day of school dropping off. I never missed a baseball game. I never missed a parent-teacher conference. I never missed anything in his life. And I made it a point to make sure every day that my child, and still to this day, my son is 28 years old, and I tell him every day that he is the delight of my life, that he is a blessing from God, and that he saved me, truly. I didn't have purpose.
Yeah.
I really didn't feel like I had purpose until he came along.
But Lauren, that's such a beautiful story because it's what I just said. So often we become what we hate, but you didn't.
I did.
You made that choice. And again, this podcast is all about choices.
Yeah.
We make our choices, and eventually our choices make us.
Yeah.
But you made that choice where you're like, even though you were struggling during those years and doing something that at this point you regret some, but you're going, but I was going to not be the kind of mom that I had.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I never, and still that this is the whole purpose for one behind this book, and this podcast and everything else is I never want another human being to ever feel like they are not worthy, or that they are not worth it, or that they are not loved, or that they don't have a purpose, or, that everybody has a place and everyone has a spot in this world. God created them so perfectly in their mother's womb, and that there is a purpose for every single life that he has created. And we need to understand that even if you don't think that you have one, you do.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of time before he releases it all to you and reveals to you what your purpose really is here.
Yeah. So Lauren, what would you say right now? There's someone who's driving their car listening to this podcast, or they're taking a hike, or they're walking down the road and they're listening to this podcast, and maybe they feel the shame of stuff they've done because our enemy loves to bring up all of our brokenness, right? And audience, if you're feeling that right now, I want you to know that is not God speaking that to you. That is the enemy.
Amen.
But they feel shame-filled. They feel like they're not worthy. They feel like there's no value to them. What would you say to them?
The best advice I can give you is really to put your trust and your faith and hope in Jesus. He is the only way. He is the only one who can take this away from you. There's no human being on this earth, no matter whether you think it's your children, your spouse, a counselor, there's no one who will ever compare to the joy and the peace that Jesus Christ can offer you. And you have to go through it to get to it, but it takes time, and there is some struggle, but there is always joy and peace on the other side of your struggle.
Yeah.
And he's the only one that's going to give it to you.
Well, you answering that question like that, probably our audience is like going, wait. What just happened here? Because we just heard this story up until I was into this for 15 years and I'm struggling and I'm feeling the shame, and I'm this great mom. I'm being a great mom to my son, but I'm confused in life.
Yes.
To all of a sudden, you just gave the answer you did.
Yeah.
So connect those dots.
Yeah.
Where did you end up, or how did God navigate this path till you got to the point where you understood how much he loved you and how valuable you are?
So eventually the 15 years had passed. I finally got into a place where I could support a life and a lifestyle. Obviously, I had to dial things down a bit. I had to change my lifestyle a little bit to support my son the way that he deserved. And I got into a job in plastic surgery that allowed me to do that and got really good at it. A few years later, and still in this position, I still am not fully in, I'm a lukewarm Christian at that time.
When you say you're not fully in, you mean fully in with following Jesus?
Yes.
And
yeah. At this time, I knew something needed to change, right? So I did start going to church, and that was by myself. I just felt like something had to change in my life. So I started going to church. I started getting back into serving and doing the things. But here I was, 1 foot in and 1 foot out. I was a sinner on Saturday and a saint on Sunday, because I was doing the party thing. I was still going out with girlfriends. I was still drinking. I was still sleeping around, the whole thing. And then I was going to church, right? Trying to make it better in my eyes. And a few years into all of that, I got a DUI, and much deserved, by the way. Let me just clarify that. Much deserved DUI. It was a horrible situation. It was a very long time coming, I have to say. And I probably should have gotten one many, many times and many years before that. And I'm just really grateful to God that it did happen the way that it did, and that it didn't happen in another manner. Yeah. It was I had 2 drinks. I got pulled over on Cinco de Mayo, where everybody was getting pulled over. I did, again, I am guilty. I had 2 drinks. I blew a .08. I was officially under the influence. But yeah, that took a very negative turn, in my life. Of now I have a record. My son, who is 16 years old, is driving me to work and dropping me off on a corner.
Does he know why?
Yes. And I had to go to him now and his father, who's an alcoholic, and tell them I got a DUI. Yeah. And it is horrifying and mortifying and embarrassing. I had to tell my family, because I couldn't show up to Sunday dinner driving my own car. And it all unfolds, and you got the breathalyzer in your car, and you're paying thousands of dollars in fines. It really takes a toll.
And the enemy is using that, meanwhile, right, to heap more shame on you.
Oh,
right?
So much.
Like, you already are shame-filled, but he's just going like, look what you've done now.
Oh, yeah. And then here you are, like you say, you're at your rock bottom. I hit my rock bottom where I'm literally thinking to myself, what more could go wrong in my life up to this point? I have made such a mess of this. And I had so much shame and guilt. How could this happen? Like, how could this happen to me? Duh. It happened because you did what you did and you were guilty of it. And now I know that, of course, looking back. And I think too, at the time, I really chalked it up to God was trying to teach not only me a lesson, but was hopefully teaching my son a lesson about drinking and driving. He's 16 years old. He's just starting to go to parties. He has his driver's license, right? All these things are starting to unfold in his life.
And he's seeing firsthand the consequences.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, his dad is an alcoholic. He's seen him passed out in bathtubs and, doing crazy things as well. Maybe this was a light bulb moment for him. And so I really did at the time. I thanked God for the moment, even though it was horrible and it sucked.
Yeah.
So we went through that, downfall, and a few, maybe year or so later, I was working for a plastic surgeon, and he ended up taking his life.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So that was really hard on me too. I was very close with him. I was kind of like his right-hand, girl, and I was making great money, thankfully. And I owned a home, which never in a million years did I think that I could ever own a home by myself as a single mom. And I did. And God blessed me so greatly with that. Yeah. And I did give all glory to him when he did that for me as well. but here I am again, right? I'm just getting over this DUI thing. I'm just getting the breathalyzer out of my car. And now this person who is literally supplying my income and my lifestyle is gone. And I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know, was the practice going to survive? Was I going to have a job? Was I really going to have to go and look for another job again? There was so many uncertainties, really. And I was scared. At that moment, I have to be honest, I think that was my rock bottom.
Yeah.
Because there were no answers. There wasn't anybody for me to turn to and say, what do I do now?
Which, again, just jumping in here, that's the other thing that's so sad about when the enemy goes in and he breaks up families or has toxic families, because we're never meant to walk alone, right? Like when you grow up in a good family structure. I mean, my kids and I talk about this often. None of us have to worry. We're not ever going to be homeless. Because you've got aunts and uncles and grandparents and parents and siblings that are going to be like, what you pick up the phone and you call.
Yeah.
And you got half a dozen people are going to be at your doorstep at 2 a.m. if they need to. That's the way God intended families to be.
Yeah.
But when you don't have, like what you grow up with, you don't have that. So here you are, you're in your late 30s at this time, and you hit rock bottom and you feel alone and you have no one to go to.
Nope. And like you say, I mean, my siblings are siblings, right? They're your family. And I love them dearly. Mm-hmm. Again, knowing we are all in our own survival mode. We are all in our own survival mode. They are not in any position to be that for me. Mm-hmm. They're still trying to be that for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And again, doing all of this life stuff on my own for as long as I've been doing it.
Now, can I ask you a question, though? Because you gave your siblings there so much grace, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
Did you feel that when you were in your late 30s and you're in the midst of this, or were you just like, where are they? Or were you at that point still going like, I get it. They're just trying to survive like I am.
Oh, yeah.
That's how you were?
Always.
Okay. Yeah.
Always. Yeah. And if anything at that time, when you are solo for so long and doing it all on your own, you start to just feel more like a burden. Right. And I didn't want to feel like a burden on them because they were in their own stuff. They were in their own survival mode. Who am I to put more on you when you're already dealing with what you're dealing with, right? My sister's disabled. She now has 2 children, which was an absolute miracle in itself. She was never supposed to have children. Wow. My brother, who is an addict as well, has now been disowned from our family. Yeah. Who am I to call on him? And, I mean, really, you now, and I had known for so long, I'm it. Yeah. I am it. Yeah. I have to deal with this. I have to find a way out, which again was why I did the things that I did. That was my way out. Me doing all the stuff, the financial stuff, I found my way out. Yeah. And I was again trying to figure out my way out. Yeah. But emotionally, at this time, at this juncture in my life was the time I think I had nothing left. I had
Which
nothing.
is why you say rock bottom.
That was it for me. I had nothing left. I'm trying to raise this kid. I'm trying to be the best mother, right? And I'm carrying all of this stuff. I mean, I've got this backpack full of rocks that I'm just carrying around with me, hoping and praying that this beautiful human being who I call my child doesn't find out about who I am, because I was so embarrassed and I had so much shame.
Had you hidden a lot of that from him at that point?
My son had no idea.
Oh, he didn't?
None.
Wow. I didn't get that earlier in the story. So you've basically hidden this lifestyle from him.
He had no clue.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I was the mom that showed up.
Wow.
I showed up for everything. I was never late.
Yeah.
I was at every game.
But he doesn't know what you're doing for work.
No idea.
Wow.
No idea. I kept him in this bubble of just, I love you and that's what matters. And I'm going to supply everything you need. I'm going to support you the best that I could. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you now, my son is 28 years old. My son has only known my life and my lifestyle for the past 2 years.
Really?
I just revealed it to him.
Can I ask, we can edit this out if you don't want to answer this, but how did he take that when you explained it? Because he was probably 26 or something at that point. So
unfortunately, the way that it all ended up coming out was some issues that I had from my childhood. I ended up releasing some information. My brain ended up unlocking some things from my childhood that I could not deal with as an adult.
That you had which happens to a lot of
yes.
Kids that are abused,
yes.
right? They just, their protection
Block.
mode of their brain, they block it. So it comes out late in life and you don't even know what's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's literally how it, like a situation happened in my family. My niece's best friend committed suicide. I started having all these my brain, I don't know, just unlocked all of this stuff.
Yeah.
My childhood came out and I couldn't cope. Like I really didn't know how to cope.
Now you're in your 40s when this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which again, audience, some of them have lived through this.
Mm-hmm.
That happens to a lot of people in their 40s.
Yeah.
You know, toxic, abusive home, maybe not as abusive, but again, a lot of us in our 40s confronted things that we thought we were fine with and had put away, and then they come out and I think sometimes when people talk about midlife crisis or whatever, I put that in quotes. A lot of times I think what it is it's crap from our past that also we're dealing with that we had no idea.
Yes.
So you have this file cabinet, so to speak, and your brain opens up and you had no idea some things were in those files.
Memories.
And it comes out.
Yeah. Memories of the abuse and things that had happened to me. And again, you know, we're still pretending like we're this happy family entity. Mm-hmm. And my son has no idea. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I can't just go around my family and act like nothing's happening when I'm having a mental breakdown. Literally like having a mental breakdown.
Yep. And
at this time, again, I'm now deep in my faith. And I turned this over to God. Mm-hmm. And what God revealed to me was that I will be the generational curse breaker in my family. And that this is my moment. And that I'm going to have it. Sorry. Mm. And that I am going to reveal and release every ounce of my past and lies and secrets that I have kept from my son. And that no matter what happens, and no matter how it happens, that God will love me through it, and that he has redeemed me, and that my son will be there no matter what.
Oh, and I did. God. That's part of the hope and part of the reason you wrote this book, isn't it?
This is the reason.
Is every single person listening, I don't care what past you came from, you can be that person. Like you chose to be that in your family. Yeah. You can be the one that stops this. Yep. That's why I named my firstborn son Josiah, by the way. Nice. King Josiah in the Bible had his father and grandfather were two of the most wicked kings in the Bible. And Josiah turns the whole nation back to God. Yeah. But he was one of those that I always looked at as a reminder that with God, yes, I don't care how many generational curses you're carrying, it can stop with you.
Amen.
Yeah. So you make that decision. Yeah. And that's where you decide you're going to tell your son.
Everything, the whole thing. I mean, starting from childhood, right? I have to release to him now that I have been abused by his grandfather, who he only knows in a certain light, right? His grandmother, who he absolutely adores. And that I have been living with this pain and shame. And I now told him, I was a stripper most of your life. I started prostituting. I'd been doing drugs and, you name it. You know, I was very forthcoming. I did not leave anything out.
Was that a little scary for you?
It was, because, you know, my son truly, besides God, is the only human being that I care anything about what he thinks about me.
And you can't control what he's going to do with this information.
I can't.
Yeah.
You know, I can't. But what I do know is that because God told me that this was my job now, like this was my position, I am going to do this. My child, he told me, you're going to be the generational curse breaker. And whatever comes about through this, I want you to know that I will never leave you. Mm-hmm. And I knew that he wouldn't, because of all the times before this, even that he showed up for me. And so even though deep down I did have that little sense of fear, mm-hmm. I knew that it was all going to be okay. I knew that even if he took it really hard, even if he was like,
I'm done with you. I don't want to have anything to do with you. I don't even know who you are. You're a liar. He could have said a lot of things to me. He really could have. And thank you, Jesus, that he didn't.
Wow.
My son just cried, and as I'm crying, because I have to tell him what a horrible human being I feel like that I've been. And really the shame came from the fact that I lied to him. Like I really lied to him for so long, and I was very ashamed of that. And so when I told him, he just cried. And all things aside, all of the things that I told him so many horrible things. And the only thing that he said was, how could the two people who were supposed to love you the most hurt you this way?
That's what broke his heart.
That's what broke his heart. It wasn't any of the choices that I had made, the things that I did. And again, I think it's because I showed up. I always showed up for him, no matter that I was doing those things, and I made those choices. But that choice I didn't make.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he was so hurt and upset by that choice. And that he had seen these two people that he really loved his whole life in a totally different light now. And that couldn't be taken back.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing now that I could do to take that back.
Yeah.
I did feel some guilt for that as well,
Yeah.
Now I've inflicted pain upon this one human being that I love more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't take it back because I'm so messed up.
Mm-hmm. Lauren, I can tell from the way you talk about your son, you're so proud of him. But let me tell you, I don't even know him, and I'm proud of him, the way he responded. That's it shows empathy. It shows maturity on his part. And even if he didn't, if he took it totally different or something, because as human beings, it's be 26 years old or whatever age he was, around that age, to all of a sudden be told these things and go like, what? But to handle it with such maturity and empathy and to recognize, again, I think what he had there was probably what we could call a holy discontent.
Yeah.
It was like what I said earlier. You don't hurt kids.
Yeah.
You don't hurt kids.
Yeah.
When you find out that your mom was wounded deeply by these two people that you loved and respected.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So our whole family line ended up, unraveling in these moments of honesty, unfortunately.
Which in broken homes, that's, audience, please hear this. The way that broken homes so often carry this through generations is with these lies.
Yes.
And that's where it keeps going, is because it's like, well, don't rock the boat.
Yes.
Don't, if you share that, then everybody's going to hate your uncle. And it's like, yeah, but uncle did something that was wrong.
Silence. They just expect you to just keep it all, just don't say anything. Like, and again, I rocked the boat, and it has literally dissolved our entire family.
And that's just been the last few years.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, man, I respect you greatly for your courage to do this and your obedience.
Thank you.
Part of it was you sensing that God was telling you to do this.
Yeah.
And because you did that, it's been very painful and difficult in this journey.
Yes.
But you are setting up future generations.
Yeah. And really, all of this and leading up to now, him telling me, to write the book, again, totally not in my scope of things to do in my life that I ever thought that I would do in my life. I've never had a desire to be an author.
Yeah.
I don't know how to write. I don't. I'm telling you, I got a D in graduated from high school with a D in English.
God loves to do those kind of stories, doesn't he? I'm going to use you in a way that you never thought you would be used.
Yeah. Still. And so that coming about the way it did, and he's used me in such other beautiful ways before telling me that, this was going to happen, that I wholeheartally had nothing but trust that he was going to take care of it.
So, Lauren, how would people find this book? I would guess that most of our audience right now is like, I want to read this, 'cause you're just touching on your story. There's probably so much more.
There's so much more to it. There's so many details, and there's so many things that happen in between all of these things that I've just explained.
And I'm it's killing me with our time limit here, because there's so many questions I want to jump into and dig into, but I'm going to have to go read the book as well. So where do we get this?
It will be on TBN. You can find it on their website, Facebook, Instagram. It will also be on Amazon and at Barnes & Noble.
Okay. And what's the title of the book?
No Victory, No Crown.
No Victory, No Crown by Lauren Graham.
Yes.
And we'll have a link for that in our notes as
Awesome.
well so people can find that. No Victory, No Crown by Lauren Graham.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Lauren, thank you so much. Thank you so
An
much for
honor.
sharing your story. And
Thank you.
I appreciate and honor you for your courage in sharing it, for your courage in doing what you did, and your obedience. And you absolutely, there's going to be generations that are impacted because of you making this choice.
All glory to God.
Yeah.
It's not me. This is all God.
We serve a good God, don't we?
All day.
Yep. A God that C.S. Lewis referred to him as the hound of heaven. And I think your story is a reminder of that.
Yeah.
That you made that decision at 16 and then you turned your back on it and made a lot of other choices, but he was like a dog, just
so
pursuing, running after you.
Yeah. Thank Jesus for that.
Yeah. So I appreciate that.
Thank
Well,
you.
2 truths and a lie.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 truths and a lie.
This is where, so our audience has heard you here. And this is kind of a fun part of our podcast where they get to know you a little bit better. So you're going to give me 3 statements.
Okay.
One is going to be a lie, and I got to try to guess it.
Okay. So I've been baptized 3 times.
Okay.
I have fasted for 10 days.
Okay.
And I have lived in 30 different homes or apartments.
Okay. I'm going to start by saying the 30 different homes or apartments is true.
It is true.
Okay. All right. Good. I got a 50-50 chance now. Baptized 3 times or fasted for how many days?
10.
10 days. I'm going to say the fasted for 10 days is true.
It is not.
Oh, okay.
I have fasted for 6 days.
Wow. That's still a long time.
It is
still a long time.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Lauren, thank you so much for being a guest. Thank you so
Pleasure.
much for sharing your story.
Thank you.
We hope that this book, No Victory, No Crown, just has a massive impact. And
Me too.
I know you believe it. I believe it too. It
Yes.
absolutely will. There's going to be people in heaven and people's lives who are changed and found freedom because of your story. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Lauren's story is heavy, but her redemption reminds us that healing is possible. We've linked where you can purchase her new book, No Victory, No Crown, in the show notes. We'll catch you in our next episode.